So here's what we're going to do. I'm going to pose this last question, and in 30 seconds or less, and this is going to be gut-wrenching for Ed Foster-Simeon, because 30 seconds, but he's done it before, and he'll do it again. In 30 seconds or less, I'm going to ask him to respond to this question, and then we're going to take your questions. And this is a very important part of this program, because the dialogue is important. Maybe starting with Ed Foster-Simeon, 30 seconds or less. If you had to give one bit of advice to this group, what would it be?
Several phrases. Spend your time here learning how to learn. It's such an easy phrase, but such a complicated thing to do to make you a loaded weapon. Second thing, if you don't mind me sharing a little bit of personal advice, start each day counting on God, just asking direction, so that whatever you go and do, you're taking the right steps forward. That's me, so it doesn't have to be for you. And then walk out the door, and when you fall down, get right back up. That's it.
Ted?
So since Ed gave several phrases, I guess I'll do it the same way I gave you the first one already, which is just do it. Then I have my own phrase. Everybody that knows me personally knows that my slogan is slow feed, don't eat. But the other things that I'll say, I quoted this in the last session we did, and I'll quote it again. Luke chapter 12 says, "To whom much is given, much is required." And what I always say is the easiest way to ever help yourself is to help other people. It will always come back to you.
Well, my advice is it's about mindset. Because there's a mindset a lot of people have when you look up to someone, you want to be that person. You like, I want to be the next, growing up, I wanted to be the next Oprah. I want to be the online Oprah. So, but instead of saying you want to be the next person, you should be saying, I want to be the first of myself. Because everybody's path is completely different. You can't compare yourself to whoever you're inspired by his path or motivated by his path. You have your own path. And yes, you can be inspired by them, but always try to be the first of yourself.
Since I love you all, I'm going to give you a dose of quick reality, because we're here to uplift you. Not everybody is going to make it. It starts out in high school. You see people having fun and games, and oh man, I'm the dopest guy in the room, and I'm rapping, but the reality is life gets more serious. And when you talk about thinking that it's not cool to get good grades and all of that, I'm sure you know people like that, right? When you're in high school, but then you made it to this level. So a lot of people have fallen off that were cool in high school, right? Well, life gets more serious. And you have to continue to not look to your right, not to look to your left, but run your own race. And remember, people are going to fall off throughout life. You have to just keep going. So continue to invest in yourself. And remember that the fact that you're here is a step one, but you can fall off. And like those other people that fell off, you can too. But you won't.
So I'm going to give two. In my life, I've found that little quotes and things like that are helpful to a guy like me. I'm not very clever, so I need little guideposts to keep me kind of on point. Two things. When I first moved to Washington in 1983, one of the first quotes that I heard was that famous political leader in Washington said, "You can get anything done in Washington if you don't mind who gets the credit." That applies in my career in thinking about that, of Don't worry about who gets the credit. Worry about whether it gets done. And if you worry about whether it gets done and not who gets the credit, because I get distracted by my ego, oh, they're talking about her, they're talking about him, instead of talking about me. No, at the end of the day, did the work get done? And am I associated with a product that's really good? And do I have the right people around me? The second thing I'm going to tell you is a little bit of a software kind of issue. Winston Churchill has a quote that is very important to me. He says, when you're going through hell, keep going. Okay? In life, stuff is going to happen. Stuff is going to be disappointing. Stuff is going to be hurtful. Stuff is going to make you want to stop. And what I take from that quote is I have a choice. When I'm going through hell, I can pull up a chair, sit down, admire the scenery, tell everybody how awful it is, or I can try and keep going until I get out of there. So when you're going through hell, keep going. Life is not a straight up slope. There's going to be things that happen. Don't give up, just keep going.
Wonderful. Those bits of advice are the things that a lot of people take away from these sessions, without question.